Thank you, Dave. You remember the Austin-Healey?
Sure.
It's not been that long ago. 400 other people also remember the Austin-Healey. They're the member of the National Car Club. They're meeting in Louisville this weekend. Healeys are the British-made cars that were in production for 17 years. The last big one was built in 1968, 10 years ago. 75,000 were made. They cost new about $3,500. 20 miles to the gallon and went 100,000 miles between engine overhauls. The man who designed that car, Jeff Healey, said today that he'd like to get back into car designing, but government regulations have taken the fun out of it.
Too far, and they're now beginning to cost the owners a lot of money, and they're not getting the benefits that they should do. I think that, you can overdo. It's a question of the overkill, and nowadays people are just paying for petrol to feed these or gasoline to feed these devices, and they're carting around a lot of things they don't need.
Walt Blank from Chicago just turned down $10,000 for his Healey.
It's a pride of ownership that you can't get with something that you can buy on the showroom floor these days.
The 100 or so cars here will be on display tomorrow at Ramada Inn Hurstbourne from 10 until noon.
Grove Park Inn, Asheville, North Carolina. July 6, 1979. The Austin-Healey Club of America. It's Conclave 79. Set in the grandeur of the North Carolina mountains, some 450 souls come to share in the Festival of the Healeys, hosted by the Carolina chapter. This year's conclave will prove every bit as challenging as Bloomington in 1976, Seven Springs in 77, and Louisville in 78. And now, the concourse, the rally, the funcana, and popularity judging, all part of Conclave 79. Thorough inspection. Here's John Whiteside of the Carolina chapter at Station 8.
Here we are with the chief judge at the concourse event, Chuck Anderson. Hi, Chuck.
How you doing today?
Say hello, Chuck.
I love this country you got down here. This is the most beautiful country outside of Colorado I've ever seen.
Well, we appreciate that very much. How about giving us a quick rundown? What have you got going here? You got how many stations set up?
We've got 8 stations set up for the concourse today. We've got about 30 cars going through, and we find that the quality of cars is much higher than last year. People have done a lot of work in the last 12 months in getting their cars back to what they originally were, and we're very proud of the improvement we see, and the people are setting up their cars for the concourse in '79.
Well, we appreciate what a fine job you've done getting this organized and getting this whole crew out here. How many judges have you got working?
I've got about 24 judges working today, and they've been working very hard all afternoon and doing an excellent job, by the way. I think as I've gone over the judging sheets, I find it's very close this year.
What clubs are represented in the judging?
Mostly the judging is being done from the Indianapolis and Chicago region clubs, with a little help from the Carolinas, and we appreciate that.
And look who we've got standing here in a group. Say a few words for us here.
How about that? A few words.
Well, you got to do better than that.
Well, you guys... Welcome to Conclave 79. Carolina Conclave 79.
We've got a past president and a future president all here together.
Here we are. Can't say what an honor it is to be here and have everybody here, and to commend the Carolina Club for such a great job. Beautiful site. Good-looking cars.
Don't say anything about the weather.
Well, it's just liquid sunshine that's falling right now.
Very good, and we appreciate it. We're here in historic Grove Park Inn in the scenic mountains of western North Carolina. Unfortunately, today our weather hasn't cooperated, but we have been fortunate enough to get our honored guest here for an interview. We have Tom Bush, our incoming president, who will handle the interview and the introduction. Tom, would you introduce your guest?
Thank you, John. I would like to, first of all, welcome everyone to Asheville and to Conclave 79, and to introduce to you our guest of honor, Mr. Gerald Coker. Jerry was involved in the early years of the design stage of the Healey 100. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you very much, Tom. I must say that I'm very honored to be here, despite the typically English weather, which forced us into this indoor tape.
Well, at least the cars might feel at home a little bit.
Well, yeah, someone said that already.
Jerry, can you give us an idea of what your involvement with the Healey Motor Company was in the early years? When you started, what you did, and so forth?
Yes. I went to join the Healey Company as really as a body engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer, but they wanted a body engineer, and a friend of mine and also a friend of Donald Healey's convinced me that I could do it. So I said, well, I don't think so. Anyway, I went. And I did engineering on the Nash Healey, was the car that we were working on when I got there. That's the English Nash Healey, not the Italian one. And then I was always interested in the appearance of cars and car styling, always doodling cars as a boy and so on and so forth. So during slack moments, I'd take the existing cars they had, a drawing, wheelbase, so on, position of engine, and doodle what I thought they should have done with it in the first place. And of course, eventually I was caught. The skipper came in, and I was doing this. He said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I was thinking that you could have done this with this car and improved it and so on and so forth. And he said, well, yes, that looks pretty good, and so on. So that became a bit of a habit to try and improve things that we already had. And so naturally one day he comes in and says that we need there's a market for a car between the XK120 and the MG. And he said, I've been thinking about it, and I think we had something with a 90-inch wheelbase, and we could use a four-cylinder Austin engine, Austin drivetrain, so on.
Now this is Mr. Healey.
That's Mr. Healey, yes. And Barry Bilby was the designer of the chassis. I designed the bodies, he designed the chassis. So Barry and Jeff and I got together after Donald had given us his outlines on the proverbial back of the envelope, and he said, well, see what you can come up with, I'm off. See, so off he goes. And we doodled and so on and so forth, made drawings and sketches, and that's really how the Austin-Healey, this was a Healey still, and eventually he and I had very similar tastes, so it wasn't a difficult job for me to project what I would like to see to him. And we thought, well, we'll get a prototype made, and with a bit of luck we could sell or build at the plant probably 5 cars a week. Which of course you know what happened after that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And from then I worked on the Bonneville salt flat cars and improvements and bigger Healey's or hard tops, personal cars for him. We built probably, I can't think how many cars, but a number of variations of hard tops and racing versions and things like this. Then people kept buying the 104, so why change it? And there's me still doing nothing really.
Yeah.
Because the car's still going on
and on, yeah.
People keep buying it. We decided that maybe we should design a new one. So we designed a new one, and that had concealed headlamps and concealed top and this type of thing. But it was decided that it would be too expensive. And it would be cheaper to put 2 inches in the wheelbase of the 4, redesign the front, and keep the same theme, and that's how the 106 came about.
Beautiful. Then I guess you can safely assume that we owe you a bit of gratitude and thanks for designing what we all love and are here to meet about, because your design in the original 100 carries all the way through the 67 BJ8 series. The cars are very similar. Now, you had a little bit to do with the 6 then. You worked on the grill and, and the styling of the hood and so forth.
Yes. The 6 was a continuation of the 100 design, and was carried out by Jensen Cars, and while that was being done, I was still working on a future model. However, Donald Healey came back from a trip to Jensen's one day and said, I'm really disappointed with the front end of the 106. Of course, it's not the first time he said that about the 104 too. So he has this thing about disappointments on front ends. And he said, I think you'd better get out there and see what you can do with it, save it before it's too far gone. Well, the sheet metal was already formed around the nose, and they had the grille set back behind the sheet metal. It curved like an inverted thing. It didn't have an aggressive look about it. So I made a sketch while I was there and told the chief engineer that we were going to change the front end, and took my sketch back to show Donald Healey, and he said, well, that looks fine, tell him to do that. So I went back again and said, do this.
Beautiful, beautiful. You had some involvements with the Sprite series cars too, didn't you?
Yes, the skipper wanted a car that, as he put it, this was really for the English market, and the English chap can put in his bicycle shed. So it's very narrow and had to be cheap. We couldn't have exotic shapes, and we looked on it as a poor man's Ferrari, which is why it had a sort of, although it got a bit lost in the translation, a Ferrari sort of Testarossa slow snout, you see. And I did the work on that, but then we decided that we were sick of gas rationing, and of course we were approaching the same state here.
I think it might be well for you to design another one quickly, huh?
That's right. And so on, and decided, well, let's try America. And so after the first prototype was built, and it was painted Ferrari red. Well, only the shell was built. That's when I left. They painted it Ferrari red, and it looked pretty good. So I was slightly horrified when I saw the first one with these bug eyes. I couldn't see the car. All I could see were these huge headlamps. I was disgusted, although it turned out to be a cute car.
Well, it's turned out to be a most distinctive car, for sure, right. And it's definitely a Healey product.
Yes.
It has really been tagged such.
What's your car number?
78.
And who we got here as a navigator?
Paulette Lonsdale.
And your driver, Paulette?
Gary.
Gary, where y'all from?
Detroit.
What do you think about the rally?
Oh, the rally scenery was fantastic. The driver should have listened to the navigator a couple times.
Did you get lost?
Only once, and that was a good one.
How long were you lost?
About a half hour.
Well, how do you think you did?
Oh, well, once we got back on course, we followed the course perfectly.
Very good. Would you like to run it again now that you know all the turns are?
Yeah, plus I got the feel of the car now, too.
Very good. Thank you.
From there, as I say, the delegates.
Competition going on, while you were also very busy, and my competition was the coolest cat concourse judge. I judged it on the more 3 counts: sexist, biased, and bending the rules. My preliminary judgment is secret, and I ended up with 6 finalists. The 6th was Julian Avenal. He didn't have a lot of clothes on either. For his age, it was quite legitimate. He's the only one that qualified in his age group. 5th, Hugh Ferris, far too naked for his age. For being the oldest, youngest looking dad I know. But certainly has a neat hair. Then 3rd, Bruce Phillips. Now, he certainly has the most beautiful legs. But the amount of hair that he lacks on his head, he makes up for on his legs. But not to worry, because I'm told that with the hood down or the hood off, you go much faster. Performance is certainly increased. But my dear, those sandals. Were you ever in the army? I doubt it. 2nd, Don Mollett. Now he had, I think, everything on, but I was so mesmerized by all the badges and the stopwatches and everything, and I can't remember if he was wearing trousers or not. And 1st, Mark Miller. He was there with that thick, beautiful Healy sweater on, black and red, Healy, red on black, black on red, spelled 8 times and correctly. He either doesn't have any blood in his veins, or he really is the coolest cat. So I award you the award and the Order of the Blue Boutiques.
Refurbish something that is no longer.
Keeping history alive.
And will never be again, because the man that did it died in January, Donald Healey.
And this meet takes special significance from a number of ways. As Walt was going through, we've never had a meet in the Southwest before, and so it's important. We have very, very active and very, very good clubs in Kansas City, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, and St. Louis. Colorado. And these people really, although the Kansas City club is the host club for this meet, we could not have done this meet, this 4-day meet, and this event right here is being put on by the Dallas club. And but the support we got was basically from everybody's desire to put on a world-class, if you will, meet in the Southwest. We hadn't counted on the heat, but that's okay.
about 100 miles north of here. I'll be up there and watch the food make the line. Come on back.
North of Milwaukee.
Probably about 40, 50 minutes.
So we should put our jumpers on, right?
Oh, and then we can grab a seat over there. There's a seat over bench where we can sit as well. Oh, right. There's some benches there.
Bobby, do you want any pictures? Anything? You tell me.
Everything is bent cans. Probably find a load of cogs in it now.
Thank you for your vote.
Even an evening of heavy rain couldn't dampen the festivities. Activities moved inside for dancing and viewing some of the special Healys. The 5,000 square foot exhibit hall was filled with Healy enthusiasts. Among the collection of memorabilia were these historical black and white photographs from the Healy family archives. Also on display were original sales brochures and posters that were once used in dealer showrooms. Popularity Car Show. Cars lined up by classes for voting by registrants. In the exhibit hall, concourse judging was taking place.
You want any history on this at all?
Please do.
Okay, this car was finished Easter Sunday, and we drove it that following Wednesday to Texas. We're in South Carolina, and we lucked out over there and got most popular. Then we turned around, left it for our daughter's wedding, and drove it back to South Carolina, and then up to North Carolina to the Triad Club encounter, and won there. So, the interior was done by Classic Interiors, who are sponsoring Popularity. And we were in Texas when we bought the car. It was red when we found it, but we authenticated it as a gold base. My forte is running them. I like to drive them and get them on the road. We get in the car and go. So that's our whole premise. You'll see us everywhere.
Hey, great.
Okay?
You'll see me everywhere, too.
Great. We'll be around. My wife won the hill climb in our other car. We have another BJ8. So we're trying to set the record a couple years in a row. Gymkhana, anything that's to be run, rallies, we'll be in them.
Great.
Running cars.
I was just getting ready to close the door and get ready to go.
Oh, I've had it about 7 years. I've been picking away at it, and probably this winter I did the biggest things with the wiring and the paint and the new top, and that probably was the biggest change. Sort of that's getting to be the whipped cream, I guess. But along the way, you can do the exhaust system and tires and wheels, and did some engine work, and it's pretty good.
Cone you knock down, drag over, run over, unless you molest sufficiently to get the attention of the steward. It'll cost you 10 points for each rose you miss. Likewise, if you topple one of the rose bushes,
I'll ask you if there'll be a quiz later. The last car really...
enjoy meeting everyone here. It's been really terrific. I hope the weather keeps fine for the Saturday weekend. So I think from now I will ask you all to raise your glasses and drink Donald and the chill healing. Donald? Yes, I know you'd love to be here.
We want to extend a warm Southern welcome to each and every one of you. Get ready to experience days of suns up, tops down, fun's on, Southern-style healing. Now, here's your host and our conclave chairman, John May.
We've been waiting a couple of years to welcome you here tonight, and the Atlanta Club is really excited. And I hear something off to my left, but I can't see it.
Where was I?
Turn it over to the chicken.
Rich midgets with money and girls.
What dog is that you got now? It's half Chihuahua and half Rockwilder. Whew, I hope the Chihuahua was the father.
She complicated, left me and you to ride. She complicated, left me and you to ride.
What's this?
What?
This car. This stupid car. Where's the Cadillac? Where's the caddy? Where's the caddy?
What?
The Cadillac, the Blues Brother mobile.
I traded it.
You traded it for this?
No, for a microphone.
A microphone. Oh, I can understand that. But what is this?
This was a bargain. I picked it up at the Arlington Heights police auction. It's a cop mobile. It's got cop engine, cop shocks, cop tires, 3,000-liter engine. They were practically giving it away.
Well, thanks, pal. The day I get out of prison, you show up. My brother shows up to pick me up in an Austin-Healey police car. Let's.
Ain't no doctor with three. It don't take too much IQ to see what you're doing to me. You better think about what you're trying to do for me. Ow, ow.
Howdy, I'm Brett Miller, and this is my Texas entourage. There you go. The most important thing is this little thing that they're all carrying right there. It's called a bandana. Can y'all say bandana? Whoo, doggies, they're good. All right. Now, I'm supposed to talk to y'all about this very special little thing because there's a bunch of stuff you can do with it. Now, first of all, you're supposed to be able to wipe your brow. There you go. In unison. Okay, the next washcloth. There you go. Sling. Yeah, I'll show you something to sling. Bandage our stitches. Where's David? And, no, while he's here, there's another one to cover your bald spot. Might as well. There you go. Let's. All right. Okay. Now, we're supposed to be able to use it as a handkerchief. No, it's too messy up here. Scarf. Scarfing it. Come on, boys, scarf it. There, scarf. All right. SWAT flies. Not me. Belt.
I'm too fat.
Come on, girls, suck it in. Belt.
Look, you're dreaming. If you
Oh, that's right. It's for your radiator hose belt. To cover the scar on your neck. Now, zoom in on this. This is legitimate. You know, she got lassoed and it burned her bad.
Got lassoed.
Thanks.
Now it's working. And this is the best thing to do with a bandana.
What? That's how we stop a Texas windbag.
Good evening, everyone. As John's just said, I spent 30 years of my working life in the Longbridge plant, although it was split service because I spent a couple of years at Ford Cologne in Germany. It was really, when I first worked at Longbridge, I did spend some time working in this Healey shop, and later on when I returned in late '67, I was able to begin to do some research into the production archives and the photographs, and what I brought is just a selection of the photographs that I managed to trawl from the Longbridge and the Cowley photographic archive. We've got a couple of substantial albums, but they would have been into the excess baggage rate on the aircraft. So I brought, I hope and think, a few interesting photographs. But well, I went to work first at Longbridge in 1954. This photograph was taken about September '53. And it's the main assembly shop for the Austin-Healey 100, and to this far side is where they assembled that queer thing called the Nash Metropolitan. You probably, I don't know if any of you remember it. It's a really weird car. I can't understand how we English thought that you'd like that kind of thing. In this bit, there was about 5 pictures taken in this sequence. They're all taken the same day. Mostly, it appears from a gantry somewhere up here. There's one right down at the far end of the shop where it's really the body shells. Oh, sorry, where the body shells come in. And then there is a photograph which was taken at the far end here, which unfortunately seems to be missing from the file. I've seen it published in believe it or not, a Swedish club magazine, so I know it exists, but I couldn't find it. The cars, the body shells were brought in from Jensen in West Bromwich, where the chassis frame was manufactured by John Thompson Pressings in Wolverhampton. The body shells are assembled to the chassis frame and substructure at Jensen, brought on these flatbed trucks, which is a pretty minuscule thing when I can look at some of the outfits that I see over here. But the body shells were delivered into the far end of this shop here, where first of all the suspension units were fitted and the engine dropped in, and then a substantial proportion of the trim was fitted along this line. The cars came off the line here, were driven down to the back end of the shop here, where a slave seat was fitted for a test driver, and a 9 or 10 mile run for shakedown and checkout was given. All these cars, by the way, passed the home and the cemetery where Lord Austin is buried. I often wondered if he could have heard and seen the cars, what he would have thought when he compared them with the Austin 7 that he started the company with. The cars, as I said, were taken on a 9 or 10 mile run before checking out to make sure that the kickdown on the overdrive was set and the brakes were okay and things like that. They would be brought back into the same bay, which is where I spent a period working. All the jobs which were entered by the test driver on the job card were attended to, and then the cars were brought down this finish line where the remainder of the trim was fitted, the proper seats were fitted, the carpets and things like that. This is a photograph that I found of Donald with the with the first streamliner. I'm not sure of the location, but I suspect that it's behind the Cape somewhere. And you can see it's fitted with the 16-inch disc wheels. And someone told me that Margot had the canopy from this car in the greenhouse, but I'm not really sure how true that is. The car is fundamentally the 100 shape, as you can see with the curve of the underwing there. And it's really, when you consider the time that it was styled in, well, in fact, like the Healey as a whole, it really was very advanced styling for the 50s. And when the car looks going fast standing still, I think. This car was built in the East Works plant where the Research and Development Department was located. And it was skinned by a chap called Doug Gallimore, who was the experimental body shop foreman. The interesting thing about this, the radiator intake at the front, the whole airflow is ducted through the radiator and through the car and through a tunnel here alongside the driver to exit at the back. You can see there's the minimal instrumentation. It looks like a conventional Healey handbrake and tacho and probably an oil temperature or pressure gauge. The engine was set up by a chap called Bill Leyland, who was an old-time engineer who got an enormous amount of experience. And I remember seeing this engine on the test bed when they were setting it up. Bill opened the throttle on full boost. The head gasket blew all the way around. You could literally see the head move on the studs under the very high boost pressure. And I thought, my goodness, I don't think I'd like to be sitting behind that at 200 miles an hour. As you know, there was also an endurance car built, and this photograph and the one that follows is taken in the Longbridge Wind Tunnel, which was a wartime installation, and it was not a very high-speed tunnel. It was only up to about 40 miles an hour, but it would give enough information to extrapolate the kind of drag coefficient curve. As you know, this was powered again by an unsupercharged 6-cylinder engine. I don't know who styled this car. I don't know whether Jerry did it or whether it was just a back of a cigarette packet styling exercise. It looked really quite a nice car in the flesh, but I think it's true that what Jeffrey said, that all these cars were so subject to the corrosion on the salt flats that they really, if they hadn't fallen to pieces, they would have, and they were really just scrapped off. It's the Abingdon Competitions Department, and you can see that they're preparing one of the rally cars here. You probably know that Abingdon looked after the rally cars, and Warwick looked after the race cars. That was the split of responsibility there. This is another one of the Competitions Department, rather better because you see this fixed MGA, looks like a Sprite, another BJ, whatever it was, Mini Cooper, another Healey. This again is a rally car under preparation. You see it's a triple Weber carburetor setup. Again, I don't know who the fitter is. This photograph is one that was taken by a friend, a Healey, a BJ8 owning friend of mine who lives quite near to us, and it was taken on the 1964 RAC rally. It's one of the well-used rally cars by the registration, and you'll notice that it's using I suppose you call them cross-country tyres, mud and snow tyres. The next one's a bit more entertaining because it shows a Morgan eating a Healey's dirt. I don't know whether this, I have a feeling this car has survived, because when I was running the Healey register, the 100 register, that I seem to remember that number. I'm really not sure, but it's clearly an early number. It's an early car. I think it's probably a 1954 car, and it's obviously in some sort of autocross contest. This is a photograph I like as well because it's got a pretty girl on. Her name's Angela Lane, and she was a leading model at the time. This is a photograph which came from the archives of Autocar Motor. and it's the Brussels show of 1953. And I've got it because we were able to identify these two cars from the archive, and this car is owned by a German guy called Carsten Stelk, who some of you may know. He lives right up near the Danish border in Germany, and his car was actually featured in an article in the Pacific Centre magazine, I think it was last year. This, as you'll recognise, is a BJ8, and by the registration number, that's taken sometime in 1965, I think, CD 66 by C. That suffix letter there identifies the year of registration. It was introduced at A in 1964. This and the one which follows were photographs taken for the or by the Swiss handler Kummerli Frey in Zurich, and it has the hexagonal nuts which were mandatory in Switzerland before. I'm not quite sure when they came in. It was Germany, Switzerland started asking for hexagonal nuts quite a while before the car ceased production. They seem to think that these were safer than the ears, but my feeling is that if you get hit by a Healey, you get hurt whether it's got hexagons or knock-ons. But it's quite a nice definitive photograph of the car, of a BJ8, as is the one which follows. I'm pretty, as the car is Zurich registered, I'm pretty sure it's Lake Zurich, and that's one of their steamers. It's a colour slide of Donald Healey's personal car for many years. It's the first prototype fixed head 100, which was built in November 1953. And I used to see this car come to Longbridge when I worked in the Eastworks research department. Donald used to come to see Dr. Weaving, who was head of department. It was really when they were doing the record breaker cars, and in those days the car was just standard 100 running gear, but later it acquired a full S-type engine and running gear. The car carries the registration number ONX113. NX is a Warwickshire issued registration number. And I don't know quite how many years Donald used the car for, but I know it was a car of which he was very fond, and he used it for a long time. It's a very nice car. It's got ride control and all sorts of goodies in it, which Donald, as the gaffer, the boss, was able to get done. But when Donald had it, it was red, black over red, but it's all red, and it's not quite the same red colour, but it's a very nice car when you see it in the flesh. It's pretty sharp, and I can imagine Donald beating up the English roads in that. It's nice, and it's well looked after, fortunately, too. It's in very good hands.
Or you call them?
Or bigger, higher.
We're going to pick up one of these rule books so I know what the hell you're doing.
Smitty is a walking rule book.
Okay, 4-8.
4-8? Yeah. Number 8.
Number 8, yeah.
I'll call.
Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, sure. I already told him what to do. Must win you two now.
Okay, I'll call. Okay, I have none.
Pardon?
How many 8s do you have?
I'll say 3.
You have 3 on there? Yeah. No, let's see it.
My God, it does.
Congratulations, you just beat Smitty.
Congratulations. How the hell that works? He gets to count the 8s on here.
Yeah. You want to get in now? It's a total number of
yeah, but numbers. You were lying to start with.
Yeah, of course I was. Okay. It's called liar's poker.
I can read sign language. I know when she calls me a dirty old man. Hang it in there.
Yeah, we're working on the sheriff. How long they been?
Stop!
Well, if you weren't holding hands, I might not have spotted you.
Get off of my head! Leave me alone!
That's his working registration.
What happened? Do we have an interloper?
Interloper, that's me.
Throw him out. What happened?
Throw the bum out.
Well, he's wearing the right stuff.
That's
but-
right. First president.
Walter Blank.
You're the first president of
HCA.
Oh, hey, terrific.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Walt, that was what year?
1975.
75.
And you knew Ulysses S. Grant.
Absolutely.
He was on his personal staff.
He's got a great place here.
So here we spanned, 24 years.
There you go.
As the president. Yep.
More than that in stomach.
Oh, we span a lot more than that.
Hey.
Well, we throw you in, we span the world, I think.
That's gross.
There we span the world now.
A tummy contest. A tummy contest right there.
Look,
Drop the bottom one.
we've grown.
We've grown.
That's right. That's grown with it, right? Grown along
It's only natural.
And we've spread across the whole country. Right?
Now, if we only had Jack Summers here, we could truly.
Now, you want my trademark?
There you go. How about Elf?
Oh,
We get Elf.
Yes, beautiful setting, isn't it?
Yes, it
There's
is.
that guy with the camera.
Gotcha.
I'm riding my Jensen, so.
Yeah. Do you know this guy?
Everybody knows Chuck.
Oh.
That's all I need. Is more camera.
There you go. Are you having fun, though?
Yeah. This is a beautiful setting.
It really is.
This is one of the nicest. This and Asheville on the lawn in front of the building. Two of the nicest settings we've had.
One more shot. There you go. Right, big trouble.
There you go. Good job.
Thank you. It was great. Wonderful experience. I want to do it more.
Good for you.
Oh, yeah.
How did it feel? Here.
I think she's a member of the club now,
The
right?
heart is still pounding, believe me.
Very
What
good.
adrenaline rush.
That's
It's
great.
better than sex.
Oh.